Viewers, let's talk about the carnage in the Middle East, where Israel continues to rain fire on the Gaza Strip as it vows to eliminate Hamas once and for all. But what's transpired in the Middle East over the last few days has drawn the attention from the entire world. And this was also raised by Congress Member of Parliament, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra in India. But she instantly got called out by Israel's ambassador to India for quote-unquote shameful deceit. First, let's tell you what's been reported from Gaza over the last few days. And this is what we're talking about. The total number of deaths at 60,034, 9,782 women killed, 18,592 children killed. This is as per the Hamas Health Ministry and their reports that have come in at this point of time. Now, this is what is being reported. However, the figures have been swiftly countered by the Israel government. They've accused Hamas of misleading the world just to play victim card. Here's how Israel's coordinator of government activities in the territories responded to these figures. The first charge is that Hamas is inflating the death toll of Palestinians. Secondly, the number of deaths due to malnutrition have also been inflated, is what Israel says. The third, they've also come out to say that most deaths were due to pre-existing conditions. Charge number 4 is that Hamas is conducting an orchestrated campaign, is what Israel says. The fifth charge is that it's an effort to discredit Israel and achieve political gains. This is what has been stated by Israel thus far. However, it appears that there are many back in India whose hearts are bleeding for the people in Gaza, almost completely whitewashing the terror that was unleashed upon Israelis by Hamas, which led to the entire conflict in the first place. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has a message for Israel, and she has come out to say that the Israel state is committing genocide. This is a statement that she's put out. She's also saying that Israel has murdered over 60,000 people, 18,430 children killed by Israel in Palestine. Shameful that the Indian government is silent, is what Priyanka Gandhi had to say. Now, Priyanka Gandhi was quickly responded to by Israel's ambassador to India, Reuven Azar, who in fact is going to join us in a moment from now here in our studio. But the Congress was quick to rally behind Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Jairam Ramesh of the Congress party hit back at Israel. Here's how he responded. This is the statement that he had made. In fact, the Congress condemns Azar's remarks on Priyanka. The second statement of Jairam Ramesh is that comments are completely unacceptable. Also going on to add, it's too much to expect the Modi government to respond, saying that the Modi government has shown cowardice when it comes to Israel, is the charge that he has made. How does Reuven Azar respond to Congress's criticism, and what really is the ground reality in Gaza? Let's take this conversation across to Israel's ambassador to India, Reuven Azar, who I spoke to a short while earlier. And joining us here in our studio is a very special guest, Mr. Reuven Azar, who's of course the Israeli ambassador to India, joins us. Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir, and joining us here in the studio. Let me begin by a comment that you have posted on social media platform X just today. You have criticized Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. You've accused her of deceit after she criticized Israeli actions in Gaza, and you've gone to say that Israel killed 25,000 Hamas terrorists. The terrible cost in human lives derives from Hamas's heinous tactics of hiding behind civilians, their shooting of people trying to evacuate or receive assistance, and their rocket fire, and that you facilitated 2 million tons of food into Gaza while Hamas tries to sequestrate them, thereby creating hunger. Why did you choose to take on Priyanka Gandhi Vadra on social media platform X?
Because this is a blood libel against our people. You know, for millennia, Jews have been accused of crimes they didn't commit. And we have been persecuted, and terrible deeds of violence were done against us. And they are being done now because of the fact that people are accusing us of crimes like genocide and intended starvation, which are absolutely false. Israel never committed a genocide and will not commit a genocide, because we are defending ourselves, and Hamas is using civilians as human shields. And actually the terrible cost in human life in Gaza that we are still undergoing is because Hamas refuses to end this war, refuses to give us our hostages. Israel has gone farther than any army, any Western army, any army at all in the history of warfare, to take civilians out of harm's way. And when it comes to comparison, the number of civilians that have been killed in Gaza are much lower than similar urban scenarios, like in Mosul, when the ratio was 1 to 8 civilians. Here it's merely 1 to 1. It means that Israel is doing the utmost to lower the number of civilians that are getting killed, and we are being blamed in an irresponsible way.
1 to 1 is a very high number. It is a significant number.
It is a very low number compared to other urban dense warfare scenarios, like in Mosul, that it was 1 to 8. Okay? So one terrorist for 8 civilians. Okay? So we are here acting according to international law. We know there is criticism because there is a lot of human suffering, and we do not want to continue human suffering. But the way of ending this war is to stop bashing Israel. Israel has a voice. The Jewish people didn't have a voice for 2,000 years. We have a state, we have a voice, and when there is a blood libel against us, we are going to react.
But is she factually wrong when she says that the Israeli state is committing genocide? Of course, you answered that part, but she says it has murdered 60,000 people, 18,430 of whom were children. It has starved hundreds to death, including many children, and is threatening to starve millions. Is she factually correct or wrong here?
Wrong. Because first of all, inside these statistics, you have Hamas fighters from the age of 15, and the UN or Hamas is counting as children people under the age of 18. So there are a lot of fighters of Hamas, terrorists, that have been killed that are under the age of 18. That's number one. Number two, there have been
How many such are there? How many have you been able to enumerate?
Well, there has been a list that was published by the Hamas Ministry of Health. We are going over that list. There are a lot of mistakes in the list because they are counting people that died for natural causes. They are counting people that have been killed as a result of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad misfire of rockets. There are many casualties that are not a direct result of Israeli engagement, and therefore these numbers are completely baseless and are not reliable.
But there are certain instances where we have seen children being killed. For instance, in an instance where several children were killed near a water distribution point in Gaza in an Israeli strike, we have seen Israel come out to admit that it was due to a technical error. This is the Times of Israel, which has said that there was a IDF statement attributing it to a technical malfunction, and this happened even as the negotiations on ceasefire and hostage release deal continued to stall.
Madhav, this is a war, and in war, mistakes can happen. And actually, Israel is the only army that admits mistakes and investigates mistakes in order for them not to reappear, not to happen again. But this has nothing to do with these numbers that are being thrown to the air, to these accusations that are completely baseless. Okay? This is a war situation. It's very dramatic. It's very tragic. But we have to be very careful when we blame the state of Israel that has a moral army that is defending itself in the way that actually is not only defending the interests of our people, but also respecting international law.
Right, because apart from that, there is of course the entire incident where 15 rescue workers were killed in Gaza. There were questions about what happened over there as well. There's also of course the Gaza Health Ministry, which had put out the 60,000 figure. What is your estimation? I mean, you said that you're going through the data, but can you give us a number, or why has Israel not been able to arrive at a number of those who have been killed in the Israeli action who are not part of this category?
Well, we do not possess control on the ground when it comes to the Palestinians themselves. There have been ruled for the last 20 years by the Hamas government, a government that is oppressing them, and therefore we cannot necessarily corroborate one number or the other. What we know is the estimates that we have that have to do with the fact that we have been actually targeting the terrorists. 25,000 of them have been killed. We know that because of the reports we are getting from the military units. And when it comes to the rest of the casualties, those who are uninvolved, we are doing the utmost effort to get them out of harm's way by having millions of telephone calls for them to evacuate, with leaflets. Before we enter operations, despite the fact that we actually undermine our effect of surprise, we call people to evacuate. It's Hamas that is trying time and again to prevent evacuation of civilians, to put them in harm's way. And therefore, it's their responsibility. Madhav, we could have ended this war 1 year ago. The only thing that has to happen is that Hamas has to accept their defeat, renounce their weapons, and give us back the hostages. The entire international community has stated that they don't agree that Hamas will continue ruling the Gaza Strip. But you know what's the challenge? Is that nobody is capable of going there and getting them out. Israel is the only one that is doing that. We are doing that for ourselves, but we're also doing a service to the region and to the world. Because nobody wants a terrorist organization to continue controlling territory in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world.
But then, is it the case that Hamas, for instance, you say they use human shields, or that they're using hostages, of course, is well known. But is that possible throughout the entire Gaza Strip? Because there would be instances where there would be fighting, there would be gunfire, so on and so forth. But each and every instance where there is a killing that has, say, happened, it cannot be due to a human shield that a civilian is killed.
No, of course, there are different scenarios. There are times in which they are attacking our forces. Sometimes they're doing without human shields. But what they are doing is that they are blending themselves inside the population. They build their command and control centers. Systematically, they build them under hospitals. Systematically, they've been building them under mosques and schools. And they are blending themselves within the safe havens that we're creating for the population. So if, for example, Israel decides that, there's going to be a safe haven in the Mawasi area, in the northern shore, western shore of the Gaza Strip, then Hamas enters there. They take out their uniform, they blend inside the population, trying to get refuge in the midst of the civilian population in order to survive another day, in order to get to a situation in which they get Israel to withdraw, and they then can go back and control the Gaza Strip, rearm, regroup, and do another 7th of October. We are determined not to allow that.
Okay, because one of the instances which has now been talked about a lot is the killing of an Al Jazeera journalist. Israel has come out to say that he was a terrorist, and this was at a hospital, the Al-Shifa hospital, if I'm not mistaken, that this had happened. Many are questioning whether they were all indeed terrorists, or perhaps has Israel gone overboard in this case. There's a perception, at least in the international media, that this perhaps is a case of a journalist being killed, and perhaps it is not correct.
It is not correct, for sure, because we have the evidence. We have gathered intelligence material from the headquarters of the intelligence of Hamas, which, by the way, was under a UN installation. Okay, and Anas al-Sharif, the name of the terrorist, he was a member in the military wing of Hamas. He was a cell commander in Jibalia. He was trained by the military wing of Hamas, and in addition to that, he played as a journalist, and he was, by the way, very close. He participated in the 7th of October. He was very close to the leadership of Hamas. So there's no doubt that he was part and parcel of Hamas. And it's not just that he had the wrong messages. We don't target journalists because we don't like them. This person was a terrorist operative. Okay? And that's why he was targeted. And by the way, in the Gaza Strip, you cannot be a journalist without being either working for Hamas or aligning with Hamas. It doesn't mean we're going to kill journalists. No. We are targeting the ones that are military operatives. And Anas al-Sharif was one of them. Because
Al Jazeera has put out a statement. They're saying that this is the biggest assault on press freedom, and they're saying that this is a desperate bid to silence those who are speaking out against, quote-unquote, Israeli occupation.
Shame on them. They are a propaganda tool for Hamas. And we have been seeing that. The Al Jazeera Arabic channel, we've been seeing that time and again, promoting the message of Hamas, promoting the message of the Muslim Brotherhood, promoting the jihadists, and using their money and the resources in order to advance the Hamas agenda. And that has to be condemned. Unfortunately, many countries still allow Al Jazeera to use this propaganda and to utilize the resources they have in order to spread this propaganda, which is absolutely false.
What happens from here on, Mr. Azar? Are you planning to completely demilitarize Gaza? If so, will you hand it over to the Palestinian Authority? What exactly are you going to do from here on?
Our Prime Minister has stated very clearly a day and a half ago that we have basically 5 goals. 2 of them are the original goals of the war, that we want to bring back hostages and make sure that Hamas cannot rearm and regroup. For that, we need to have a demilitarized Gaza Strip. We don't want to control the Gaza Strip, but we will have to have overall security responsibility, and we want to handle the civilian rule of the Gaza Strip to a Palestinian force that will be committed to developing the Palestinian entity, not to fight Israel. The challenge has been, Madhav, that for the last 20 years in Gaza, Hamas, instead of building the future Palestinian state, they used every resource they had in order to destroy us. So the Palestinians are going to have self-rule, and they're going to have a state once they decide they want to build it, instead of trying to destroy ours.
So how quickly do you see that happening, and are we looking at a time frame for this demilitarization?
As I said, it can end tomorrow if Hamas accepts its defeat.
But what if it doesn't?
If it doesn't, we are going to go for an operation to take over Gaza City. It's an operation that is going to take time, because first of all we have to make sure that all the citizens, the civilians, are evacuated, and we'll have to go very slow because Hamas is booby-trapping every building and every tunnel and every shaft and every institution, and that's what's causing, by the way, this terrible devastation of the infrastructure.
What about the situation with Iran? How are we looking at the situation there? Because you have forever blamed Iran for carrying out a proxy war against Israel. We've even seen the US bomb those nuclear facilities as far as Iran is concerned. We've also seen those strikes that took place. Is it over as far as Iran is concerned?
Well, it's not over as long as you have this regime that has sworn to destroy us and trying to use its resources in order to make sure that it happens. So we have to be very vigilant when it comes to their attempts to reconstitute their military nuclear program and their ballistic missile program. We are going to remain vigilant when it comes to their attempts to continue to spread their weapons of mass destruction to their proxies in the region. The Israeli presence in Gaza now makes sure that Hamas cannot get arms from Iran. And we will have to put forward a regime that will make sure that these proxy armories won't be built again around us in order to attack us, with the mandate of Iran.
Right. We've seen there's been an important development internationally. Several countries, Australia, France, UK, Canada, have all come out to say that they will recognize a Palestinian state. If they do bring that up, for instance, at the UNGA later this year, would that be seen as a huge embarrassment for the Israel regime?
Well, I think it's a huge mistake, because Hamas actually is taking credit for it. They are saying that these countries are going to recognize Palestine because of the 7th of October, because of what they did, their attack against Israel. So, in addition to that, their statements now have undermined the negotiations and the proposal that Americans have put forward in order to end this war. So they are getting encouraged by the fact that you have these statements, and they are actually refusing to cooperate with a proposal to end the war. These statements are prolonging the war in Gaza. They are a huge mistake.
Right, but the US is firmly backing Israel on this?
Absolutely.
They're firmly. They're not going to in any way change their position.
Well, I cannot tell the future. I know that we are coordinated. I think that there is consensus, not only between us and them, but also in the international community, that Hamas has to go, and we have to do it as diligently, as fast as we can.
Right, and India has always advocated a two-state solution. How are you looking at India's response, particularly since 7th October?
Well, we have been encouraged by the fact that India supported the right of self-defense. We know the traditional position of India. We respect it. We have very good dialogue with the government of India. We facilitate together humanitarian assistance, and any role that India can play will always be a good role. I think India has a lot to contribute, both in that context, but also in the larger context of creating peace in the Middle East, engaging with those countries that actually are interested in common security and prosperity.
Right. Were you surprised when you recently heard a senior defense official in India mention Hamas in the same breath as terrorism and terrorist groups emanating from Pakistan?
I was encouraged. I think that is a step in the right direction. Everybody understands what are the dangers that are emanating from Hamas and the jihadi movements that are actually, unfortunately, inspiring each other. And we saw it in Pahalgam as well. So I think it's a natural process that countries will coalesce to try to defeat Hamas, to ban it, to condemn it, and I'm thankful for the statement.
Right. What started off as a tariff war between India and US, now there appear to have been a lot of developments. We've seen how the Trump regime has hosted Pakistan Army Chief Asif Munir there. He's made statements threatening nuclear war. We're also looking at a situation where, there are 50% tariffs on India for purchasing oil from Russia, whereas the same oil is purchased by other countries such as China, no such tariffs on them. And of course, Trump's role, which he says in terms of negotiating peace between India and Pakistan. As a diplomat yourself, how are you looking at all of this, and do you see the possibility of this continuing and perhaps India being pushed closer to the BRICS formation, as it were? apart from its track that we've been seeing over the last 2.5 decades of moving closer to the US?
I'm optimistic because I think that at the end of the day, what brings us together, both India and Israel, and also India and the United States, is not just interest, but also values. And therefore, ultimately, I'm optimistic that interests can be bridged.
All right. Ambassador Reuven Azar, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us here at Times.
Thank you.
Thank you.